Hi, it's been a bit since we last spoke. As I'm sure you've noticed, the channel has had a lot of tea times and music videos. It's because I said that I was going to keep the 2 videos a month promise, and those have been on the channel from the word go. This buys me time to find what I need and make a script, find the clips, and edit the video. And by that I mean write the script and let the editor cook. Also, when I'm speaking about anything that has to do with history, I've reached out to another YouTuber who has also been featured on the channel, Admiral Paco, who is basically now a co-writer for some of the scripts, and is also technically on the channel. But let's talk about the subject of today's video, since I really don't want to talk about how I'm running my channel behind the scenes. Not because I don't want you guys to know, but because, well, we'll be here for forever and I don't want to do that. I don't know if anyone has noticed this, but we have a big racism problem in media all across the board. And we need to talk about it. So hop on in the time machine with me and let's take a walk. So I don't know if anyone recalls this, since it happened like 2 years ago. 3 years ago? 2 to 3 years ago. But when the show Rings of Power and House of the Dragon, which is a Game of Thrones story, both of those got a lot of backlash for the dumbest reasons ever. Now, in case this missed you, let me explain what happened. In House of the Dragon, they cast actor Steve Toussaint as Lord Corlys Velaryon, a member of the Velaryon family, and in the time period of the story, one of the major players fighting for control over the kingdom of Westeros. The show has dragons galore, fighting in most episodes, and expanded the larger history of the world of Westeros as a whole, since most people just don't know the history of it other than the Game of Thrones TV show, which ended terribly. So why was this a problem? Well, because Steve is black. No, really, he was a black man playing a king, and people lost their minds over this fact. Steve did an interview with several people about this upsetting and weird fact, but we'll be taking a line from the article written by Joshua St. Clair on August 30th, 2022. Quote, Steve Toussaint responds to the House of the Dragon racism following his casting as Lord Corlys. They are happy with a dragon flying, Steve says. They're happy with white hair and violet-colored eyes, but a rich black guy? That's beyond the pale. End quote. Steve is right. This show is based in a world where dragons, magic, the living dead, and gods are omnipresent, but suddenly having a black guy be a king had thrown people for a loop. I hate to break it to you, but he's not the only black king that's ever come out of fucking modern media. And before you ask, well, who else? What do you mean, who else? Wakanda forever. Hey guys, come here. Let me whisper to you a secret. Come here. A little closer. That's right. Black people have been around forever, and it makes you look like a really bad writer if there are no people of color in your story at all. And before someone tries to pull out the "but anime doesn't have people of color in it" card, or well, this was technically in London, so there wouldn't be black people, you would be right, except you're really not. But let's put a pin in that and we'll come right back around to it, okay? Let's focus on the 2 shows I want to focus on, and then we can get into the good rep that actually for real happened. Because Lord Heaven above forbid that we don't actually touch on the history of this weird phenomenon. Oh my god. Celestial, I just realized I'm so sorry. This is going to be a long audio and you're going to have to put in overtime. My condolences to your free time. In the article, Steve makes another comment, which is a lot lighter and more optimistic than anything else. He says, quote, Toussaint's hard pill isn't just about existence, but also class. Lord Corlys Velaryon doesn't simply exist in Westeros, he's one of the most powerful and wealthy men in the 7 kingdoms. Toussaint says his early conversations about the role were less about Corlys' race than his relationship to his daughter. He sees the character's motivations as one of ambition and elevation. Still, he recognizes the importance of his presence on set. What has been wonderful is for every toxic person that has somehow found their way into my timeline, there have been so many others who have been so supportive and been like, oh my god, I can't wait, this is going to be great. End quote. So while some mouth breathers in the audience take major offense to this choice, most other people are just happy to get a good story. If you will permit me, I would like to talk about my high school play in junior year. I was not an actor, I loved being a techie in the background. But when we did this play, everyone tried out. Even some of the kids from the sports teams wanted to come and play a part because it looked fun. The boy who played the lead was Asian, and the freshman they cast to play his daughter was black. The girl who played her mother was white, but no one even blinked because the story was what people came to see, and their kids on stage too was also a big draw for most parents. But the story was first. Who played who was not. So this racist take on this show and Rings of Power was so weird to a lot of people, but even specifically me because I'm a theater kid at heart. Like, guys, please, why did we pick the fantasy stories to get this hate boner for? Like, of all the genres to start picking a hate boner, fantasy should be, like, not even on the list. But anyway, The Rings of Power is an Amazon show that takes stories from the Lord of the Rings universe, most specifically the Silmarillion. Shocker, but they also cast black actors and actresses in this show. I'll out myself right here so people know where I'm coming from. I tried very hard to read The Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and even the Silmarillion. I did not get far in those books, and I have tried several times to get through them. I just couldn't. But I've watched the movies, which is like an adaptation of an adaptation of an adaptation. The Lord of the Rings has been redone like a million times, but, you know, whatever. So this was a grain of salt that you need to take this with, because I had to ask my brother, that nerd, to tell me. He did read all of those books, or rather, he got way further than I did, and then he asked his wife, who did read all of them. More than once. On purpose. But he made it a point to tell me that J.R.R. Tolkien takes forever and ever and ever amen about nature and trees and things, but people are left kinda vague. Let me rephrase that. J.R.R. Tolkien gives you enough information to make a vague picture, but he doesn't call people black or white. Tolkien was born in what was then the Orange Free State, which is now part of South Africa. It was a British dominion at the time, and as such, he was British by nationality. But the man grew up in South Africa. You want to sit there and tell me that he would not write a black person or two into the book? Oh wait, hold on. My phone's ringing. Oh, Admiral Paco. Hello? Oh, okay. No, okay. Thank you. I've been informed that Tolkien left South Africa when he was 3. Oh, but also early 1900s Birmingham, where he did grow up, was already an ethnically diverse city with significant non-white population. Yes, Tolkien was middle, if not upper middle class, but he certainly would have worked around plenty of non-white people. Shout out to Paco for calling me to tell me this. Paco was coming in clutch. The reason why I'm saying this is because many now say some of his stuff comes off as being racist, which I'll give it to you. Yes, it does. But J.R.R. Tolkien was very progressive for his time period. So let's take that knowledge of it's a little racist with a grain of salt, yeah? But when you think about it, why wouldn't you add a person of color to your writing? I mean, I know the reason why. It's racism, but like, why? It's also the reason why this skipped me when it was happening. Because I'm white. Okay, I'm half white, but my point stands. This discourse missed me hard because I just wanted to watch these shows and enjoy them. And I did enjoy them. But while House of the Dragon mostly ignored the haters, Rings of Power clapped back hard. In an article written by Kelly Lawler for USA Today, she was able to grab this amazing quote, and I'm just gonna use it in this video. To quote her article, Amazon stands firmly behind its cast in the decision to include more diversity, which was blessed by the Tolkien estate. Producer Lindsay Weber told the Los Angeles Times, quote, "We were really proud of the cast that we have in the show. We welcome discussion and even criticism around the series. However, we will not condone racism of any kind," Amazon Studios chief Jenna Skursulki told the Times. The show stars revealed a statement to the official Rings Twitter account on that Wednesday, strongly denouncing the racism and harassment. The cast, quote, stands together in absolute solidarity and against the relentless racism, threats, harassment, and abuse some of our castmates of color are being subjected to on a daily basis. We refuse to ignore it or tolerate it. End quote. Our world has never been all white, fantasy has never been all white, Middle Earth is not all white, the statement continues to say. Black people, indigenous people, and people of color belong in Middle Earth, and they are here to stay. End quote. Kelly does bring up a good point, though, in this article, if you actually read it. I just took that one little part of it. Why and how, right, did Interview with a Vampire, because she mentions it in the article, the remake missed this bullet, but these two fantasy shows got dogpiled with it? Well, because it can be summed up in a few sentences. It's a remake of an old series, it is fantasy in the loosest terms possible, and it's gay. There we go. Because of those three things, it might have missed this bullet just because of the fact that it's a remake of an old series that's kind of fantasy with predominantly an LGBTQ plus romance story. I'm not going to get into why I don't think it's a romance story, because we're here to talk about what we're already talking about, but here we go. Now, it can be more complex than that, and it kind of is. Interview with a Vampire was originally written by Anne Rice, who has just very recently passed away, actually. And it was also reasoning right behind it is Anne wrote a lot of her romances to kind of be gay. Like, vampires have been gay for forever. Shameless plug right here, I did an old video on Anne Rice and her vampire universe all the way back at the beginning of this. Actually, it was the first video essay I ever did. Oh boy, time flies. But my point still stands even in that video. Anne Rice wrote her vampires to be gay. So yeah, she wrote them to be very gay, to be very upfront with being vampires. Anne Rice wrote so many books on so many supernatural entities over the course of her career, but this remake doubles down on specifically the Interview with a Vampire series and on being homosexual. In this, The Year of Our Lady, the Dolly Parton, they said, make it more gay. And it works, because vampires, werewolves, even pirates have been given a fresh coat of gay paint, and a bunch of people said, yes, good food, more please, and thank you. I should know, I was one of them. To be honest, Interview with a Vampire was a comfort movie that my sister and I would watch a lot. Like a lot. Our record for back-to-back rewatches is 6 times in one day. My sister had just broken up with her boyfriend, and she was knee-deep in her depression episode. I just wanted to spend time with her. But I watched the movie a lot. Also because Antonio Banderas with long hair awoke something in me. I like long dark hair. I like dark hair. That's really all it is. So, yeah, it awoke something in me. But anyway, also, can we slow clap it out for how pretty Antonio Banderas looked with such long hair? I'm sorry, I'm having a moment, but I'm just gonna keep it in because I personally think it's funny. This is also the reason why I love Olrox in the new Castlevania series on Netflix. Look, my little tangent aside, Kelly Lawyer wrote a different article to explain how Interview might have missed this. Kelly really be putting in the work on these shows. Kelly wrote in her article, Why Outrage Targeted Diversity in Rings of Power but Not Interview with a Vampire on October 9th, 2022. She quotes the exact reason why I jumped like I did in this. Somehow, right, according to this article that I just straight up stole from quote, somehow the outrage machine missed Interview, but it might be because the series is available on AMC and its streaming services AMC Plus, with likely a smaller audience than the likes of Ring or Dragon. It could be because Vampire is a franchise primarily aimed at a female audience rather than the belligerent male fans of the other properties, who also cry foul at prominent women characters in addition to characters of color, though it should be noted that many white women have participated in this kind of online abuse as well. It could be, as Adam Sorer argued in The Atlantic, that these so-called fans get swept up in right-wing culture resentment about franchises from their childhood because of their inability to grow up. End quote. Kelly, you don't gotta come for their heads like that, but she's got a point. Since the new Interview was rewritten and shot to show a gay relationship, an abusive one I might add, as the main focus, with one of the main leads being a person of color, it would make sense how this got skipped, because in history it was implied, and also it was just done, that some white men would take their half-white offspring and try to hide them away without outright killing them as a way to save face. So good on them for putting that little bit of history in the show, but Kelly did make a good point. Since AMC is smaller in terms of audience, they might have been able to get away with this change, and not many people took notice. But a lot of people did notice, and even commented on the fact that Claudia, the main child character in the book and the movies up till that point, and now also this TV show, had also undergone a race change. Most of the original material was kept, but they did a cool fan fiction of it, which is what I'm trying to say. Which isn't bad. Truth be told, if you do anything to change the race of anyone in any big name media, someone will throw a hissy fit. Please see the shows I mentioned. But remember when I said we would come back to good rep? Well, here it comes. Wait, hold on. Before we get to the good rep, let me get on my soapbox really quick. It's kind of low-key gross, and low-key makes you look mega racist, when the only reason why the shows that you are basically being a bitch about is, well, because they changed the race of this one character and I personally don't like it. Okay, but why? Why don't you like the race change? Is the melanin literally the only thing that's tripping you up? I'm very confused. And I say that is because the reasoning behind it is what confuses me. That's it, the reasoning behind it. Like, I understand why they're so fucking hung up on it, but the reasoning behind it makes zero sense. On a technicality, a lot of people in history were not white and were very predominant figures. I'm being serious. There's lots of good representation that comes with a lot of shows. I would like to now hop into the good rep that we see. In the show Bridgerton, the queen in that, Sorrows, Prayers, she's black. Some of her children are black. There's lots of black people in there. And it is shown that these are high-ranking officials in an English monarchy setting. Which I'm gonna let you know right now, that was probably true. But Hella, you can't actually prove that. You can't disprove it either. So we're both in the fuck-up boat. It's not as awesome as you think. And when people try and talk about, like, well, anime doesn't have a lot of black characters and there's not good rep. Actually, I want to talk about an anime that does have good black rep. It's predominantly people of color, actually. The anime is called Michiko and Hachin. Let me be blunt. This anime is set in Brazil, and it has Cowboy Bebop looks and references and a feel to it from the word go. Michiko and Hachin is a pretty straightforward anime, and it was mostly people of color, actually. Michiko is a black woman. The cop in charge of getting her is also a black woman. In fact, there are several people of color in the show at all times, constantly being put into the main focus and central point of it. Hachin and her father are white, along with a few other side peeps in here, but most of the show makes it a point of telling you it's people of color heavy. It's set in Brazil. If you've ever actually looked at Brazil, the color gradient is literally, oh my god, you're so pale, to my brother in Christ, if we play hide and seek in the dark, I will never find you. There it is. That's Brazil. But it's good rep in the fact that it has people of color, because this came out in 2008. 2008 was a weird time to be alive. People of color were just barely starting to be allowed to be anywhere in media that was set with them as the main focus. But we don't have time for that. Wait, yes we do! So in 2008 was a weird time for people of color to be in media, because they would usually be put in to be, air quotes, woke scold pieces of media where they just want to talk about insert certain thing here that predominantly affects people of color and their general communities. Okay. But Michiko and Hachin also has this problem because it was a show that did come out in 2008. They often show really old stereotypes that are no longer seen in the most positive light or in any modern media that you have now. But again, this is an older show, but I just want to talk about it because it does have good representation. This was one of the very few anime where they actually show people of color as the main character, like the main character, not just a side character that shows up once in a blue moon to be a mouthpiece for something. I would strongly recommend it because the story is very clean and has a very satisfying conclusion. Michiko goes through a lot of growth, and so does Hachin. Michiko has to come to grips with the fact that her ex-boyfriend is a deadbeat who walked out on his kid and doesn't love her and has been avoiding her and the law for several years now. He got her to go to jail for him. Like, girl, get a clue. Hachin has to grow up because she's always wanted a family, and said deadbeat walked down on her, and Michiko filled in the role for her mom and dad while they went all over Brazil and some parts of South America to try and find Hitoshi, said deadbeat, throughout the series. It's wild how good it is. Like, really, the whole series just sticks to these two constantly having to deal with their stuff. The cop that chases her literally gets her own life at the end of it. She stops chasing Michiko because she's like, it's not even really worth it to chase you anymore. I want to move on with my life. Go do whatever it is you're going to do. Hiroshi, the deadbeat dad, you only see him at the end of the series, and immediately you're like, oh, I don't like you. You're a fucking asshole. There's also another character in here called Satoshi Batista. Yes, Batista. Yes, like that guy. No, the other guy. Yeah, that guy. Here's the thing. It's predominantly set in Brazil. It has a lot of Hispanic everything. Even how they tell you what month and day it is set in a Spanish setting. And it's good. And it's good representation insofar as it's predominantly people of color based. Now, if they were ever to remake Michiko and Hachin for this, they might have to take out the gang elements, but that's actually one of the main selling points, is that Michiko gets into gang culture and gang life because Hitoshi, her ex-boyfriend, is in it. She wasn't even in it until she found out he was in it. She changed her personality to suit him and then got sent to prison because she just didn't understand the culture of it. You know what? I'm just gonna shamelessly plug. You guys should go watch Michiko and Hachin. You guys should go watch House of the Dragon. You guys should go watch Rings of Power. You should also watch the new remake of Interview with the Vampire. They're really good. And if you don't have a weird hang-up about the fact that there are people of color in it, you might actually enjoy the shows. I know I personally did. Is there anything else I want to talk about? No. Okay, bye!